Hey, how's it going, Seattle? My name is Fernando Neuenschwander. I'm a small business owner here in Seattle, Washington. It's always been my dream to have a small business, but a little background about myself. At 18, I joined the military and I served for 8 years. I traveled all over the world. So after 8 years of service, I ended up living in Japan for 3 years, and I decided to come back to the US. So I picked a city that I love, Seattle. And that was back in 2012. But I'm noticing that Seattle from 2012 is no longer the Seattle of 2019. And that's why I went with Ari Hoffman, who is a fellow small business owner, to Vancouver to go look at these safe injection sites. And after coming back, it's rather frightening to think that that could be brought to Seattle. Supervised consumption sites, safe injection sites, harm reduction sites. These are all interchangeable terms that we use for what we're regarding to as safe injection sites in this video.
We're a block away from the Insight injection site that they have here in Vancouver that you can just come in and shoot up, or as some of the local residents call it, a shooting gallery.
It took my kids, my family, it took everything from me, and I'm trying to get it back. It's really hard to get back into normal society where you're not around needles and everything all day and people smoking crack.
And I've seen people outside picking up needles.
Do you guys do exchanges here too?
But we do have a count of disposed needles and needles we put out every month. 30 to 50,000 needles every month. We're probably bringing back that plus 2 to 5%.
A playground for addicts to run rampant and do whatever the fuck they want to do and sell this and sell that and do whatever.
An area destroyed by drugs, by mental health problems, but we saw drug use. We saw drug use everywhere. We saw people smoking crack in broad daylight in the middle of the street. We saw people shooting up in broad daylight in the middle of the street, and other citizens going about their business as if this is their daily lives, which it is.
Like you be walking on the sidewalk and you'll see somebody giving somebody a jugular shot on the sidewalk, but across the street you'll see a cop car sitting there and they see what's going on. Don't do nothing. Don't get out of the car. Don't tell them to go to the injection site. I call them a shooting gallery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do crystal meth and they do heroin. Some come in just say I'm doing fentanyl. They do cocaine powder. They do goofballs, which are both.
So how much does this reduce overdose deaths in the neighborhood? Do you have data that does that kind of thing?
No, but the numbers are going higher though.
The numbers are going higher on the death rates?
Yeah, per year they're saying.
Every safe injection site we went to, the immediate surrounding area was devastated. Stores were boarded up and closed, tents everywhere. We even saw some RVs, just like in Seattle. This is the Liberty Market. I just spoke to the clerk who's in the store. He told me that it's a common everyday occurrence. Inside the store, you can see that the shelves are scarcely stocked, and he told me that's because they don't want to keep a lot of stock out in the store because much of it gets stolen, and the cops are pretty powerless to do anything about it.
So while making this film, I learned a lot of new words that were not part of my everyday vocabulary, words that probably you're not familiar with. So I just want to quickly go over them and give you a very simple breakdown. If you have any further questions, definitely go online and do more research. But I'm talking about words like fentanyl, I'm talking about words like Narcan, I'm talking about words like naloxone, which will pop up through the duration of this video. Naloxone, also known as Narcan, is meant to temporarily reverse the symptoms of an opioid overdose. That's when we're talking about opioids, we're talking about things like, Oxycontin, we're talking about heroin, we're talking about fentanyl. Fentanyl is another word that I didn't know. What is fentanyl? Fentanyl is the new kid in the block when it comes to opioids. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. It is 80 to 100 times more powerful than morphine. It is used for severe cases where patients dying of cancer and such illnesses have developed a resistance to traditional drugs such as morphine. So they need to use something extra powerful to numb the pain. Now this has hit the streets and it's making people drop like flies. This here can temporarily reverse the symptoms. The intended use is to administer it to the person suffering an overdose so that the proper emergency services, the ambulances, can show up, collect the person, take him to a medical facility such as a hospital, and then administer proper care so the person doesn't die.
So if somebody does have an episode here where something goes bad, Does that mean the EMTs come? How does that work?
911 is called ASAP, yeah.
Okay, so you say nobody's died here. Does that mean they save them at the hospital, or could they be dying at the hospital, or how does that work?
Intervene right away, right?
Right.
We've already gotten the lockdown into them. We've effectively saved their life.
Not true. You've effectively saved their lives if you get them to get into an ambulance and then get them into a hospital. But
And then it's just maintenance. It's monitoring. They monitor them at the hospital if they choose to go. I would say probably
9% don't?
Yeah, 90%, 75 to 90 don't.
How often does that happen?
Oh, daily.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we have overdoses daily.
I've not counted one guy 4 times, the same guy, 4 times in one day.
Gotcha.
Wow. Yeah.
so sure, nobody's dying in safe injection sites. It doesn't mean that they're not leaving the place because they can't hold them there and then going back to their tents and dying. In fact, there's a concern in the correlation of safe injection sites and the rising deaths from overdoses. This is not a magic pill that's going to cure everything. This is supposed to be a temporary tool to assist somebody who is suffering from an overdose so we can get them to a hospital.
And right now with the bends that's going out, like people are going down for like 6 hours, so it's kind of hard to see if they're overdosing or not. Like I narcoed a guy 8 times yesterday, or 7 times, sorry. And finally he came back, but it's that other drug now, right?
They're not dealing with the problem. They need to Narcan him once and get him to a hospital, and then ideally to treatment. So British Columbia said they hit a milestone last year in 2018 when they administered 100,000 of these kits. 100,000 of these kits free of charge. In reality, they cost the taxpayers $40 a kit, so that ends up being about 4 million Canadian dollars. But that's not counting the infrastructure that it takes to deliver these. So people working at the pharmacies, people working at the safe injection sites, the people driving the trucks to deliver this. I'm sure the number is actually much higher than that. Narcan is not a solution. Narcan is an emergency tool. It is meant to be administered to somebody suffering a drug overdose so they can get to a hospital and receive medical care. So when I went to one of the safe injection sites in Canada, this was my parting gift. They're giving this to people because there are just overdoses left and right on the street. So they encourage people to carry this so you can just temporarily save people's lives while calling emergency services. Literally, people are ODing left and right around these safe injection sites. So what we got inside are several syringes. So you can administer a shot of Narcan, and then you have the actual doses here. Each one is approximately 3 milligrams. This is all courtesy of Canadian taxpayers. In case you gotta give somebody mouth to mouth and some gloves.
When they come here, is the first step to have them go to the rooms in the back, or do you offer them treatment first? What does it usually look like on an intake?
We don't offer anybody treatment unless they come to us and ask for treatment. We are
Right.
get clean, we'll refer, but we don't force that on any treatment.
There's no literature on the deterrent against the use. There's no pamphlets or literature on recovery. But the sites, it's like it enables, because you can just you can go there. You don't got to worry about the police. You don't got to worry about getting arrested or getting charged or scooped up and put in cuffs because of the dope.
I cried when I first came here because I was 5 years clean when I came here. I cried because I knew exactly what was going to happen, and it did. It's inevitable for any addict trying to change their life here. It's impossible.
5% go to recovery.
I would say probably 5%.
Do you track them afterwards, after recovery, like to see if they stuck with it? No. Okay.
Maybe Coastal Health does, but that's not something we do. We deal with our internal service. We just don't have the capacity to do all that tracking.
I've been doing this since I was 9. And I find what they're doing is by giving us these nice pretty buildings and all these nice places where it's okay to go get high and all that stuff. It's just accepting it. It's allowing us to just making it okay to be addicts. It's saying like it's okay, you can be a junkie, it's cool. It's really not cool. Like for me, it took my kids, my family, it took everything from me.
They're promoting use. It's come like a way of life here, almost. And if you don't get high, then there's something wrong with you. They're basically giving every addict here $400 a month to be homeless, right? If you're homeless, you can get $400 a month. You don't even have to have a bank account. You just go pick up the check, go to a money mart, cash it, and where's that money gonna go? They know where it's gonna go. Into a bottle of vodka or into their arm. And then you got this fentanyl where you need 1/10 of as much. Your withdrawal comes twice as fast. It comes faster, it comes harder. You be stealing off Peter to pay Paul, you be ripping off this and do that, whatever, robbing, stealing, scamming.
This is my truck. I left it here parked overnight. Somebody's broken into it looking for something that they can steal. They just tossed up my entire front and back seat. Luckily, I took everything of value out of there, so they didn't really steal anything, but it just goes to show, that there's a real problem here in the city of Vancouver.
What's the consequence for having a bag of dope and getting high? Nothing.
It looks like post-apocalyptic. It looks like a zombie movie. And people go about their normal lives as if it's normal.
It enables us to use, right? It's like, we can do more. I can do a bigger shot or a bigger puff or a bigger sniff and I'll be okay because there's gonna be a nurse right there, there's Narcan right there, and I'll get saved.
Treatment centers, like I was talking about getting in a treatment center today, see if I could go to a treatment center. There's not enough because the wait lists are so long. Like they should make more treatment centers instead of more of these things. More treatment centers instead of more of those, because once those people come out sober, guess what? Buddy's on the corner ready to give them a job. You know what I mean?
Go to detox and then you get sprung from detox, right? You get discharged after 7 days and you're bedding ready for 4 days after that. So then you got 4 days, 7 days sober, and you got 4 days away for your bed at the treatment center. What do you do with that 4 days? But remember, you're homeless, so you got 4 days on the street before you go to treatment.
So
what are you gonna do?
You back down into it again.
So let's go stay back at my old tent, beside my old neighbor, beside my old dealer, and my old buddy that I used to get high with. And then I got 4 days to what should I do?
Here we have overdose and death rates in British Columbia through the end of 2018. It makes people wonder whether safe injection sites are saving lives at all. Other Canadian cities with safe injection sites have issues as well. Let's take a look at Calgary, for example. Following our statistics for 2018 for both crime and disorder indicators show that the percentage change in the buffer area does differ from the center city and the rest of Calgary. Specifically, the buffer area, which is a 250-meter radius around the Sheldon M. Shamir supervised consumption centers. 579 calls for service to the Sheldon Shamir M. Health Center location, representing a 55% increase over the 3-year average, with a notable 36% increase in 2018 and 17. A 29% increase for calls for services compared to the 3-year average. A 15% increase in disorder calls, a 276% increase in drug-related calls for service, a 47% increase in violence, a 45% increase in breaking and entering, and a 63% increase in vehicle crime compared to the 3-year average. So after going to Vancouver and physically seeing the damage that the so-called safe injection sites cause to the communities and the businesses around them, I'm terrified to bring that concept into Seattle. The statistics don't lie. Now, the reason why I chose this place is because my friends and I like to gather here and play basketball. It's only a couple of blocks away from my house. Oftentimes, I find needles on this very table. I find needles all over the grass, on the court. Safe injection sites don't work. They actually make the problem worse. So if we need to allocate tax dollars, we should allocate those tax dollars towards treatment. This way we can actually help the people suffering from addiction and homelessness instead of putting a Band-Aid on a very deep and complex wound. When I first set out to make this video, I didn't know a whole lot about the subject of safe injection sites and naloxone. For example, I thought that naloxone and Narcan were synonymous, interchangeable terms. In reality, Narcan is just one of the many brands of naloxone, and naloxone should not be vilified. Naloxone can be a very powerful, life-saving tool if used appropriately. What did alarm me, however, was finding out that there are people within our community working within and in King County to bring these injection sites to our community. What was also alarming is that they've picked a very misleading acronym or name, and this is what we found off the King County website. They want to call this safe injection sites or injection sites. They want to call them CHELS, which stands for Community Health Engagement Location. Now, if I did not know any better, I would never guess that a community health engagement location was a place where people administer other people or inject people with potentially lethal substances such as heroin or fentanyl. Now, here are some of the recommended guidelines for planning, implementing, and operating the safe injection sites in King County, in our community. Eligibility. They intend to serve all participants without discrimination. And they have created protocols for minors, pregnant women, first-time injectors, those who arrive with children and minors, and those who may be overly intoxicated, drug impaired, physically or mentally ill. Now, I hope that the making of this video has at least sparked your curiosity, and I hope that it makes you go out and do your own research. Find out as much as you can about these CHEL, these community health engagement locations, about these injection sites that some people want to bring to our community. And based off that, make an informed decision whether you actually want these in your community or not.